the mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. Hey, check out my new tag team, baby, Monty and the Pharaoh.
Hey, Jimmy, don't forget to tell them about Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast.
Well, you know what, I would, but you already did it.
It's Monty and the Pharaoh.
The Monty and Pharaoh Show.
Monty and Pharaoh, bro.
Monty and the Pharaoh. The Monty and the Pharaoh.
You've got the future Hall of Famer, that rocker, Marty Jannetty, MJ in the house, and I'm sitting here with two more future Hall of Famers, Monty and the Pharaoh. We're doing that stuff and we gonna rock it.
Monty and the Pharaoh.
It's Monty and the Pharaoh.
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 And Monty and the Pharaoh. Oh, is it Monty and the Pharaoh?
Monty and the Pharaoh.
Monty and the Pharaoh.
Hey, cut music. When you want the best in professional wrestling, Long Island, there's only one place you're going to get it, right here.
Monty and the Pharaoh. Now, that's not just the coolest, and that's not just the best. That, my friends, is just incredible.
Monty and the Pharaoh. Duh.
I'm having one fun with Monty and the Pharaoh, and I'm gonna put him in a crossface chicken, and he's gonna go down right now. Yeah.
Hey! Nikita Koloff, the Russian Nightmare! And you're watching the #1 show on Long Island with Monty and the Pharaoh.
Did you drive around with that thing for weeks looking at it going, I have an action figure of myself?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'd be marking out all over the place. Monty and the Pharaoh action figures with Kung Fu grip. There you go.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. Monty Pharaoh, only seen here out of Indie Music TV in Long Island, New York. We're here with former WWE superstar Eugene in studio.
I've been to 42 countries. I've been to all 50 states. I've been to Kalamazoo, Kathmandu, Timbuktu, Rancho Cucamonga, and Lake Titicaca. And you know what I like the best? Is being right here on the Monty and the Pharaoh Show.
That's it, baby.
There
Woo!
it is. Eugene, how did you wind up becoming a wrestler in the first place? And for those at home who don't realize what kind of career this man had over at OVW, this is a 10-time OVW champion.
But who's counting?
And a WWE World Tag Team Champion with the much-respected William Regal. Eugene, how did it all start with wrestling?
That's what I wanted to do since I was 7 years old, you know, since I saw Saturday night's main event and saw the Hulkster, you know. When I was in high school, I was in the homecoming court. I didn't win king, but I was in the homecoming court, and as we're marching in the gym for the big parade, they said, Nick Dinsmore wants to be a WWE wrestler someday, WWF at the time. And a girl that was 2 grades behind me came up to me in the hall one day and said, my dad's got a wrestling school right here in southern Indiana. And that was the Nightmare Danny Davis. And when I was 19, I started training with Danny Davis, which eventually became OVW. At the time, it was just the Nightmare Danny Davis School of Wrestling. And then I started training in 96. In 98, I think, is when he partnered with WWE and became the training facility for the developmental talent. And then the first crowd was Batista and Brock Lesnar and John Cena, Randy Orton, Shelton Benjamin, but Victoria. And by that time, I had about 3 years of experience. So I was kind of like a player coach, working with them in practice and working with them, you know, at the events. At the time in Louisville, they would send the agents down every month. And I pitched it to the agents like Dean and Arn Anderson, Fit. And they're like, well, wrestling's kind of gone beyond that gimmicky stuff. We don't do that anymore. Okay. So every now and then the writers would come down. So writers come down, I pitched it to them. No, Vince wouldn't do that. He wouldn't like that. So I'm sitting in that meeting with him. Vince is there. Stephanie McMahon's there. Vince goes, I want to get back to character-based wrestling. And I just spit out the character. Great, we'll start on Monday.
He liked it right away.
Well, I think I was at a point in my career that I either needed to do something and try or get released.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And just so happened, Steve Austin walks in. It was February of 2004. Austin came back for something. And Vince goes, Steve, you ever seen this guy wrestling? He goes, no, I don't think so. I said, well, I was trained by Danny Davis because I knew that Danny and Austin had a friendship in Dallas when they wrestled in Dallas. And he looks, goes, oh, it's probably one of the best then. And it was like that vote of confidence that, you know, and then they put me in the great booking by putting me with, as Eric Bischoff's nephew. So I had instant credibility.
Right.
And then they put me with William Regal.
Right.
Because I was never extremely strong on cutting the promos. So Eugene didn't have to be. And Regal could cover for me.
Sure.
And a lot of times he could just be the straight man and do everything and get it, and I could throw the little lines in there and be comedy.
Did you have trepidations about this role? Did Bischoff have trepidations about being involved in this type of role, or was it just like everybody's on board? Let's just do this.
I mean, I don't think so. I think, you know, it was written, you know, the special kid's going to be Bischoff's nephew just to kind of knock him. But to me, he was all in. He was, all right, let's do it. And Regal was just coming back after a long time off, an injury, and he was ready to go. Cornette and Danny Davis were the ones that were like, you know, are you sure you want to do this? I mean, this might not be. And I was like, you know, this might be my one opportunity because I don't know that I would get a second one. So I was like, I'm just going to run with it. And the thing was, I'd wrestled at that point for 8 years. And I say often, you know, I was a 10-year overnight success because I'd Rip Rogers, what I'd be like, you know, make the mistakes now, learn from them so you don't make them again. And when I got there, they gave me a little bit, and I did good. Yeah. Gave me a little more, I did good, and started to get over. And I was at a point where I could go out and wrestle and not have to worry about the wrestling and just concentrate on having fun and being the character. And really, it was just, they say that the characters are something inside of you, and it was just like me remembering when I was a kid how I felt about wrestling. If I was excited, I'd be excited. Or if, you know, kids get yelled at, you know, get kind of scared, whatever. And I just try to bring out those emotions and just try to connect with the fans. And it was at a time when it was post-NWO, post-Steve Austin, but everybody still wanted to be a cool, strong heel. I don't want to sell. I want to get all my shit in. I want to do all my stuff. And then I just went out there. I wanted to sell and do comedy. Because at the time, Hurricane was the only kid's character, and the brands were split. So I knew that there was one show that didn't have a kid's character, didn't have a comedy character.
Gotcha.
And so I just ran with it. And the one thing that really helped me was the writer, Brian Gerwick, that wrote a lot of the rock stuff. He could write for Eugene. He knew exactly how to write for Eugene.
Now, you worked with Jim Cornette for obviously a long time. What's your impressions on Jim Cornette? How was he towards you? And is he really like this in real life? He's so combative. You know how he could be. You know, how was he behind the scenes for you?
He can be, absolutely. Everything that you see on Twitter or see of him on any video, he can be. But at the time, I was the top babyface, and I had probably the most experience of the OVW guys, and the developmental guys were coming in, and he wrote well for me. And I was on time. Ears were open, my mouth was shut. I did what I was told as best I could, and you know, he wrote well for me. So there was 4 of us. It was Rob Conway, myself, Doug Basham, and Danny Basham, who was the Damager, and we were always kind of in the top tiers, working with the developmental guys that were weaving their way through, and you know, pulling off really good, exciting TV for Louisville. And I think some of that is out there, but WWE owns all the footage now, and they never really released any of it on the network, just a little bit here and there. And it's like a lot of stuff that I wish would get released because, you know, then people could see more of what I did then.
When Orton was there, how did you feel about Orton? Did you feel like, oh, this is bull? This guy's coming off a cowboy?
Was he ahead of the rest of them, that class, though, as far as a wrestler when he first got there? He had to be.
Or,
had to be ahead
wait
of
a minute,
Cena
or better yet, did
in
you
the
feel
ring.
as a guy who made, you know, you work off, and here comes Randy Orton, all
guys.
Ace's son, and he's walking right in there. I mean, what's your thoughts there?
I love Randy, and I did at the time because that was somebody that I could wrestle with. All of them, each guy, I could figure out what are their strengths, and let's play to their strengths. Let's hide their weaknesses, and let's have good matches with everybody.
Well, you did a great job with Leviathan at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I worked with him, and I knew what he did well, and we just kept it in those parameters.
Was he
and
somewhat dangerous in the early days as far as you
No,
can
he wasn't dangerous. He was just rugged and just stiff, you know. And it's like, I mean, he wasn't dangerous, and he never hurt me. But those guys stole forearms with all that muscle behind it, and if they don't hit it exactly right, it's going a little.
Not knowing what you know now of that list, who did you pick to come out as the cream of the crop?
Nice.
I don't know. Like when I first saw Batista, I was like, oh my God, this guy's enormous.
Yeah.
But then we would have promo days where we would just get in the ring and somebody would interview somebody, and Cena was by far off the charts phenomenal.
Really?
He can make you cry, he can make you laugh, he can make you angry. And they would try to stump him. Okay, you've got a 4-way Mario Kart match against Obi-Wan Kenobi and like all these fictional characters, and he would just nonstop, just on point, just cutting promos on people. I think they had him in a match with his own nuts one time, and he cut a promo on his own nuts.
That's pretty good.
And it was like it just on the spot.
What, he couldn't see them? Oh,
That's pretty funny.
I can't take it.
But when I was a coach at the Performance Center, is when they first hired Sasha Banks and Charlotte and Bailey. And I remember Charlotte was kind of upset one day. She wasn't. There might have been other coaches there that might have been a little bit harder on her and didn't build her up, and she was thinking of quitting. And I told her, I said, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "You're the best one here. You're going to make it. You're going to be great." And she told me later, like, it was that boost of confidence that just she pushed through it. And she was having some tough times with family issues and all the things that went on. And I just said, "Keep going. You're doing well." She's a phenomenal athlete. Great.
When you got the call up in 2004, all these years, I mean, you did. Well, you said you were about 8 years in when you got there. You get the call, and you walk into that office, and there he is, the George Steinbrenner of pro wrestling, because we're Yankee fans. But there he is, man, the fearless leader. What was it like to meet Vince McMahon? What is he like?
I mean, I was intimidated, but I mouth shut. "How you doing, sir? Nice to meet you." And he just asked me, "You got any ideas of what you want to do?" And that's when, without thinking, I just spit out that idea of the character that might not be very social, can't tie his shoes, and him and Stephanie kind of went back and forth on, well, we could do this, and that'd be funny, and just kind of some little ideas. And he liked it. And like I said, it was a time where I really needed to either put up or shut up. And I didn't think they thought I would succeed. I thought they were, okay, we'll give this guy a chance and it'll fizzle out and then that'll be it.
Right.
But I remember before I was on TV, I wrestled Lance Cade, and it was in St. Louis. It was during the Final Four, so it was like an afternoon show. And I was never on TV, and I went out and wrestled Lance, and by the end of the match, they were chanting Eugene's name for a guy that they'd never seen on TV, which I think is almost unheard of.
Fans loved you.
I come back through the curtain, Arn, Triple H, Stephanie, all of them applause.
There you go.
Triple H is like, you really embraced the character. You didn't go out there and try to act like it. You became it. And I think once that happened, then they were sold on it.
I'm discovering now, because it always seemed like you enjoyed yourself playing that character. And I'm seeing that you clearly did.
Well, I mean, that's the thing I tell the guys. If you're out there having fun, the fans are going to know it, and they're going to get with it. Yep. The guys that are out there trying to remember or panicked or not sure what to do, and then they're frozen.
Asking, what was more thrilling, beating Kurt Angle for the gold medal or beating Triple H?
Ooh.
I did pin Triple H on Raw.
Yeah.
But when I beat Kurt Angle, I got the medal.
Yeah.
Christy Hemme was there too. I don't know. It's a toss-up.
I'll go with Christy Hemme.
I'm going with the medal. I
don't know, but how many people? Who's the last guy that pinned Triple H on Raw?
Well, as far as rarity goes, but how many people have had Kurt's medal?
Wait, first of all, how hard was that? Was Triple H like, I don't know.
I don't want to do it.
I mean, when Eugene started to get over, then Triple H goes, "Oh yeah, I want to work with this guy," and I just listened to him, and it was very similar to working with Rip. It was like, he's going to get all the heat, and I was just going, be me.
So you worked with McMahon and you worked with Bischoff, probably one of the greatest minds in pro wrestling. Yeah. Who are you choosing as the greatest mind between those two?
I think you have to go with Vince. I really do. Yeah. But I mean, Eric also, at one point in time, made more money with the wrestling company than anybody had in history. And Eric was like very personable with me. And I could talk to Vince, but I didn't have that relationship, but I did it with Eric. When I did the segment with The Rock, I got to TV early, and I was friends with Rob Conway, and then that's when he was tagging with Sylvain Grenier when they were La Resistance. Sylvain knew Pat Patterson, so he comes up to me early in the day. We were in San Diego. He goes, they got this good thing for you, and they're either going to bring in The Rock or they're going to use Rhino. And not a knock on Rhino, but that's a big distinction there.
Yeah,
Rock
you're
hadn't been
rooting
on
for The Rock.
And I'm going, he's not going to come. There's no way. He's in L.A., we're in San Diego. I mean, he's not. And then he shows up, and we start going through the segments. And I had, I think, 6 segments on Raw that day. And one of them was the one in the ring. And we did the whole walk through beforehand. He doing all the spiel. Here's your line. I missed it backstage. Okay, so I had to go run around and do some other stuff, and I come back. I missed it backstage again. Missed it. In the ring, live on TV, he walks by, he's doing his little trot around me, he goes, "Your line's next, kid," and just fed it to me right there. And it was like, that. It was that 15-minute or 18-minute segment that made me a star.
John Cena, we feel, is the last great pro wrestling superstar.
Seems to be.
Period.
On that huge level, seems to be.
How was John Cena? Was he a good guy?
Oh, absolutely. Loved him to death. Oh. We became friends when he was in OVW. And then when I started on the road, he was on SmackDown. But then when he moved to Raw, when I first started on the road, I rode with Regal and Tajiri. And that was like Barnum and Bailey Circus on wheels. And then when Regal got Tajiri went back to Japan, Regal went to SmackDown. Okay. Cena came to Raw, and I would ride with Cena. And I mean, without a doubt, awesome guy. We got pulled over one time, and the police officer pulled us over because he had his kid with him to meet John Cena. And I saw people come out of raining in an intersection, get out of their car in the intersection to take a picture. When he would do it without a doubt. Get out and I mean, he'd get in the car and go, "That guy's an idiot," but he's like, but for the kids, absolutely, and whatever. Over 500 Make-A-Wishes and the most requested Make-A-Wish person of all time. That's a difficult thing to do, and he just embraces it.
But I will ask you this, and I just look, there's got to be a dick out there that you couldn't deal with.
Yeah.
There's got to be
Who's
somebody
the
that
hemorrhoid?
you're like, this
There's
guy's
gotta
a
be a
dick, and
out there
I'm just
somewhere.
done with him. Or this girl's a dick. I don't know.
What
whatever.
pimple would you have loved to have popped?
Well, like I said, I love Randy, but I saw him do. He used to be never to me. He and I were friends, but I saw him do some not nice things to certain people. But he's not like that anymore.
Okay.
But there really was no one in the locker room that people dislike, because if there's somebody like that, they would end up.
Can you share like something Randy Orton had done that you looked and said, "What are you doing, bro?"
Oh, I never said what you doing. I laughed. So we went to Nashville. We wrestled.
50,000 people here.
Yeah, just
but it's
50,000.
okay.
Yeah. There was a young lady that came to the matches, and afterwards we ran by her house, and she ran to the bathroom. So Randy, she had a Mountain Dew bottle, and Randy put it somewhere, and then she came back, and the whole time she's like, and then finally.
Wait, hold on. Back it up. So every time she's reaching, is everybody like,
like this, like this, like this, and then she just takes a big swig. All right, let's go.
Oh my God!
He had fluids in his head. He had fluids in his head. He had to go. He went instead. Oh
How
my
about
God!
him in people's gear bags?
I never saw him do it, but I've heard those rumors. I mean, throughout the years that people have done that.
Oh my
I mean,
God!
everybody would talk about Lawler's crown getting filled up, but I never saw anything like that. You know.
You get to the top finally, and you have a nice, very nice run. Most wrestlers would kill to get that kind of attention on mainstream WWE television. What was it like? Was it hard leaving and going back to the indie circuit, or did all those years you did in OVW prepare you for life after the big, exposure? Was it easy afterwards?
I really wasn't sure what to expect, but then once I got released, my phone started ringing off the hook, and I was booked more after I got released than I ever was. And that's when it really became fun, because then there was no pressure. And that's when I'd get to go somewhere and I could really look around at the sites and get to see people. Because before, we'd fly in, we'd go to the building, we'd go back to the airport and fly back out, or hotels, and just going so fast. But then I got to sit back and appreciate it. I was non-compliant on one drug test, and that's when I got released.
Say that again, one more time.
I was non-compliant. I failed one drug test.
Okay.
Didn't you get sick? Something like happened. Did you have a reaction to something?
Well, no. Okay, so had the knee surgery, patella tear repaired. Usually takes 9 months to rehab. After 6 months, the doctor said I could go back. So I was like, okay. And that's when they put me in the angle with Kurt Angle.
Right.
And looking back now, I was nowhere near ready to be in there with him.
Okay.
Like, there was times he would shoot me off, and I was hobbling. I couldn't make it. And I was just taking as much pain pills as I could to, compensate for that.
Sure.
And we were in England, and I think I had a couple beers up in the room and took a couple pills and go to set my tray of food outside the door, and the door shuts on me. Didn't have the key, so I had to go down to the lobby. And, of course, all the fans, all the locker room, Triple H, everybody's is in the bar, passed out right before I made it to get a new key. So I had to take a little 9-week vacation, and then when I came back, the WWE doctor said, "Well, don't take any more of the somas," which I agree now. That is what kills all the wrestlers, is the somas.
Not the juice.
Not the juice, not the pain pills. I mean, pain pills are bad, but it's the somas that lower the breathing so much that people quit breathing.
Gotcha.
The doctor said, WWE doctor said, "Don't take any more somas, but you can take the pain pills." Okay. So then when I did, and then I ended up failing a test it was one that I had a prescription for, but then I couldn't prove that I had the prescription. Because that was the deal. Like, you could take it, you could take the prescribed amount, but I couldn't. The doctor that I got it from, he committed suicide. And it was like, I don't want to make excuses because I did something I shouldn't have done, but.
What is wrong with today's wrestling, in Eugene's opinion?
I don't know. I mean, for
Come
me.
on. What irks you? There's got to be something.
I follow it lightly. Like, I'll follow it on Twitter, on social media. I don't necessarily watch everything.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know that there's ever been a time that I disliked it, because there'd always be something little. There might be, if somebody does something artistically that I disagree with, that just like you could do it better in my mind. But WWE is making more money now than they ever have. So you can't say they're doing something wrong. They've got more fans now than they ever have.
Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan, WrestleMania 3. Okay. Ricky Steamboat, Ric Flair.
Maybe one of the
Pick one of those
something,
three matches. Which one was more important?
Hogan Andre. They drew 93,000 people.
He's very
And
wise.
how many people did Steamboat and Flair draw?
I mean, they were in a smaller building, but in
2,000.
Yeah,
I'll help you. 2,000.
I didn't remember. Yeah.
Again, good match, but
Not good.
But how many people did Roman Reigns and Triple H draw in that Texas stadium?
100,000.
Right?
Yeah.
damn straight.
You're right.
Roman Reigns.
I know they
the
picked-
goods.
There's another one that the internet kills. I think he's great. We've always liked him.
So, but that's like you said, that's legitimate heat that he has with people.
That's right.
And that's what you got to feed off.
You have a
that's what
wrestling
they
school, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to give you a scenario. Kid comes in here, slick back hair, sunglasses, blue jeans.
Oh, no.
Blue jean jacket.
Oh, no.
T-shirt.
Yeah, but where are his hands?
Hands in his pockets.
Ah.
And you're like, hey, kid, show me what you got. And he goes, well, here's my first move. I'm going to lightly kick you in the shins. If I'm running a wrestling school, I'm going, get the out of my school, you piece of What would Eugene do?
Well, after I took his money, I would, if he was over with the fans,
Right.
then I would say, well, somebody out there likes this.
Right.
It might not be my cup of tea.
Right.
And if I got in the ring with him, I mean, I wouldn't play patty cakes. It'd be a little bit, I would try to make the best out of what he was good at. I don't know that AEW's been around long enough to know, but WWE, they can make anything right. They took the mask off of Kane and made it believable. You know what I mean? They can write anything if they really want to. They can make anything right. So I mean, it's able in the wrestling world because we're in a phony, baloney, make believe world. We're doing oiled up pretend fighting in our underwear against other men. We can't take it too seriously.
Right. Us growing up, right? We knew wrestling wasn't real, but I will tell you, going to Madison Square Garden, Snooker Morocco, I had a friend, and I'm like, it's fake. That guy got so pissed off at me.
Because
Right.
we grew up in the pre-wrestling is fake, the kayfabe thing had not been ruined yet. The generation today that's in their 25, 30 years old, they're the first post-kayfabe being obliterated generation. They don't look at wrestling the same way we did. There was a sense of realism.
It was like, I know wrestling's fake, but this one time I saw this guy really hit. He was really mad.
Thank you.
And that's what you wanted. That's how you hooked him. Now that we say it's entertainment, okay, well, let's do entertainment.
Right. The WWE fans have not seen Eugene, in 14 years for the most part. Are you amazed that that 2-year window has given you so much joy in the post-career now? I mean, this is freaking awesome for you, right?
Absolutely.
Those 2 years.
I mean, it was that 15 minutes with The Rock that made me. That's then allowed me to do wrestling, which is what I wanted to do my entire life. It allowed me to travel around the world still. I have my own wrestling company. I'm still running shows. I'm in the ring every week. So it's phenomenal.
What was your favorite match of all time, and what do you consider the greatest match of all time?
Oh. Like I said, I mean, the greatest match of all time was probably the ones that drew the most people or the most money. They said Ric Flair against Antonio Inoki in North Korea drew 200,000 people.
Right.
I don't know what the truth is. I don't know if those people were forced to go, but still, I mean, that's a huge audience. Right. My favorite matches were Dynamite Kid against Tiger Mask.
Okay.
I watched wrestling, and when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the best stuff I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I'll tell guys, like, sometimes those guys could only have those type matches with each other. You see Tiger Mask against somebody else, it was a little bit of that, or Dynamite against somebody else, but it wasn't those two together. That's how you get the match
Is something lost, though, when a wrestler is 150 pounds compared to a guy like you, it's 230 and 240, and guys at 300? Is there something lost in translation at a point where wrestling isn't being taken as seriously by fans either?
Or are we just old school?
I don't know, because, again, WWE's making more money than they ever have. And it's our job to make my opponent look plausible. One of the first live event matches I had was against A-Train. Eugene against A-Train. And Eugene was just running around doing comedy, and A-Train was taking me lightly, and I think he ripped the buckle off, and he charged and missed, and he hit the metal buckle and fell down. And I sat on his chest crying because he tore up my bear. And I counted 1, 2, 3. I sat down, I accidentally stumbled and sat down on him. And it was his idea. It was like, he made it believable.
It's hilarious.
All right, we're going to bounce back to this one. Third-party issues with the wrestlers, right? So now the wrestlers had their own, they use their own name or their character, and social media has become quite the revenue stream for these wrestlers, and the WWE said, no, it ain't happening, right? You could use your real name. What are your thoughts on that? You think the WWE is being...
too controlling?
Yeah, maybe better.
Well,
word. Thank you.
If it's the name that you have on TV, not your real name, but if it's the name that you've signed, the intellectual property of Eugene that I signed off to WWE, I see where they have a legal standing, but if you're using your own name, I don't think there's any way that they could stop you, and I think that's a little bit of overreach and trying to keep everybody. But again, if we had a union, they could say, hey, this is separate, this is what they get. I I don't know. I don't believe it's right that somebody, your social media is your social media. If I'm going to go do the WWE social media and go be on the .com and go talk on their Twitter, that's theirs.
So, but don't you think that if you had a union, back to the union thing, that the WWE would go, okay, well, that's part of the deal, but guess what? We get 50% of that because we're the one doing all your marketing for you. And so if you go on as Tom Jones,
6%.
You get 6%.
I did when these were out. So I mean, it's like an enormous amount.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
It is.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, that's nothing to joke about. 6%.
These things are sold around the world. I mean, it's if you're on Strong and you're over.
Question: million of those sold?
I don't know how many, but I mean.
Well, you got to know. You get a check, right?
Yeah, I had one
Well, now he
quarterly
has to
check
go
that
home
was like
know.
more than I ever made in my entire life. It was like, oh my God.
Right.
It's like, oh, look at
Right.
this.
Yeah.
Bang, bang.
Did you drive around with that thing for weeks looking at it going, I have an action figure of myself?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'd be marking out all over the place. Monty and the Pharaoh action figures with Kung Fu grip.
There you go.
What's your favorite match that you experienced in the
I mean,
ring?
I don't know. I wrestled so many matches against Rob Conway and Doug Basham in small towns around Kentucky that were so much fun. I wrestled Rip Rogers all over the place. I wrestled Triple H. Like I said, I was in the ring with The Rock, in the ring with Hogan, Penn McMahon. I mean, the whole career was like a dream come
McMahon.
true. So I don't know that there's...
Wait a minute. You beat Vince and Shane, didn't you?
That's right. It was a
Well,
handicap match.
Dude, he beat
both
both of them.
But I do know the greatest day of my career. And that was September 28, 2004, the day I met my wife.
There you go.
Look at that.
Right day.
How much did they pay you to shave your head? When Vince shaved your head? How much did they pay you? Did they give you extra cash for that one?
Yeah, it was a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah, but they shaved Bischoff's head too, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, you got him too.
Well, he wanted to do it, and then I remember
wanted to do it.
when Trump and Vince were building the angle for the shave the head, and I started thinking, I said, well, you know, generally they're going to shave somebody's head to show, you know, so what babyface has the most sympathy? Probably Shawn. They're not going to shave his head. Who's? Oh God,
Years
I'm the
later.
next one, aren't I?
Years later, who would have
Years
known?
later, look at Sean. Go on.
and then the writers are calling me. And they're like stammering, like, we got to add. It would be okay if maybe you thought about. Sure, yeah, that's fine. Who's the Mount Rushmore of wrestling?
How could I not?
That should have been the question. You blew
yeah,
it.
well, he's covering for
All
me.
right,
Thank
good.
you, Eugene. Thank you.
So Mount Rushmore, 4 people. on
yeah,
Mount
go
Rushmore.
for it. Go for it.
Vince.
Vince.
Nice.
He's the George Washington, right?
Amen.
Yeah.
I think it's Hogan. I think it's
Vince Hogan.
I think it's Austin.
Yep.
And I think it's Cena. And I think The Rock. There's another monument bigger than the Mount Rushmore called Crazy Horse. The Rock is Crazy Horse.